With the queen cells, we'll be going up and down instead of out. It's kind of got craters on it, looks like a peanut shell. And it's about the same size too, you know, queen cells are 1.5 inches long, something like that, maybe not quite. And so if you see those, you'll know that something's going on in the colony. Either they're preparing to swarm or they're superseding. One of those two. They may not be getting ready to take off. They may be just replacing an old queen that's starting to fail, or a young queen that's sick, or there's got pesticides, poison, something. Is there a question? Yeah.
Is there any way to know which they're doing?
Yes, generally. It's going to make it a little bit harder with our foundationless frames and the middle bar frame. Typically on a frame with a sheet of foundation, we're going to find supersedure queen cells in the middle of the frame. And there won't be as many of them. There may be 4 or 5 of them, 2 or 3 of them, if they're superseding the queen. When we speak of superseding the queen, that means they're going to replace the old queen. They're not going to reproduce. They're not going to split the hive. Half of it's going to fly away with the old queen. Half of it is going to stay home with the new queen. When they're superseding, they're just replacing a fading queen. And those are generally found on the center of the frame. Swarm cells are generally found along the bottom bars, and there'll be a whole bunch of them. Or sometimes along the top bar. Sometimes it's hard to know. So with the foundationless, you'll see how many communication holes they leave in between the comb when there's no foundation. That's going to make it even more difficult to tell whether it's a supersedure queen cell or a swarm queen cell. Because they'll put those on the edges of the comb, right where there's communication holes, where the comb ends and then there's a space. Then they like to put those. So it might be a little bit more difficult. Just a little experience and practice, and then you take your best guess. Was there another question?
If it's an emergency, the queen is gone, then you could see those anywhere, but I mean, they're going to put those on the middle too, right?
Right. Good question. So the question was if it's an emergency. We have 3 types of queen cells, right? There's supersedure queen cells, there's swarm queen cells, there's emergency queen cells. All of those are all queen cells. They're all raising a new queen for one reason. So let's say we got into a hive and something happened, the queen got squashed. Well, for whatever reason, maybe it was the beekeeper's fault, maybe something else went wrong, but they're going to be in a state of emergency. We've got to have a new queen right away. Where did she go? We better raise a new one. So they don't have time to build a queen cup where they want to. If it's a supersedure cell on the side of the frame where they can chew down some old comb, right, and make a nice bowl-shaped queen cup there and then start from there at their leisure. Or they don't have time to say, well, we're full, our brood nest is full of nectar, we're out of space, we need to start raising some swarm cells along the bottom bars or along the edges of some comb. They're going to be in a hurry to do it. And so wherever there happens to be day-old larva when they need it, they're going to start a queen cup right there. So it could be anywhere. It could be along the bottom bar, wherever the queen was last, wherever she had laid last before she disappeared for whatever reason. That's where they'll start some queen cells. So they prefer not to start them where it's old, dark comb, where there's a lot of cocoons still left in there, because it's harder for them to chew them down. They'll have to draw it out horizontally before they can go vertically with it. That's a little more difficult for them to do. So if they have their preference, they'll start where it's easiest for them. But if it's an emergency, they do what they can.